Morning, everybody, and welcome to CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini.
I'm Joe Osmendi.
And we have a terrific, very helpful guest
cool.
on our program today, as always, but a really special guest today. Her name is Dee Bowden, and it's Business Consulting Services. Is that right, Dee?
It's BCS Solutions.
BCS Solutions. And you're in Washington, D.C., but you've got clients all over the country. The miracle of the internet is that you can solve the cash flow problem for companies anywhere, technically, in the United States. And so I'm going to start by explaining what I think you do, Dee, and then you just sort of straighten me out. Every now and then, a business owner will suddenly discover that they haven't been paying attention to their cash flow until that day when they call the bank and find out there's no money left in the account. Is that right?
Yes.
And how do you help with that?
So first of all, good morning to your fabulous audience. The way I help with that is this. It's probably easier for me to tell how I help by telling a story. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. So about 15 years ago, I worked for a small IT firm outside of Boston, where I'm from. And so they were an IT firm. So they specialized in software licenses, selling computers, etc. Everything IT. I was hired as a collector because they had a cash flow problem. They basically had $8 million worth of sales on the books, but not in the bank. Well, let me say it again. They had $8 million worth of sales on the books, not in the bank.
Wow.
They brought me in because they said, Dee, we need some help from a collection standpoint. How can you help us recover this money? So I happened to say a short prayer because I'm a believer. And then I was like, wow, that's a lot of money that took place on the front end, meaning that the sales went through, the orders went through, the contracts went through. But the part that I specialize in, which is collecting money, that part got dropped. So they had $8 million worth of sales on the books. They assigned me a list of accounts, and I look at this and I'm going, okay, got to figure out what the problems is, because I contend that collections is two things. Collections is problem solving, and it's also an extension of customer service. So getting on the phone, talking to the vendor, and finding out what happened. A lot of times it kind of goes like this. Hi, my name is Dee. I'm calling on behalf of such and such company about account number, blah, 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 invoice number, blah, 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 and need to find out what happened with the payment. Well, in doing so, I was able to recover $6 million in 60 days while working part-time. So we started out with $8 million. I got $6 million back in 60 days while working part-time. But that's not where the story ends. The story ends with the CEO coming down on October 24th or 5th, thereabouts, I don't get the dates mixed up, saying, listen, we need to have a chat. So any of you who, I kind of put this in as a sense of humor, but any of you who have a relationship with a special person, if he or she says, we need to have a chat, that's kind of a clue for, this is not a good moment to talk. So we come downstairs, and he says, listen, I want to thank you all for your services. We appreciate everything you've done, but we've made an executive decision, and we're closing the business. You basically got 30 minutes to get your stuff and leave the building. So we start up with $8 million worth of sales. I'm part of a collections team. I get back $6 million. I'm sure there were other factors that impacted the company closing, but the point is that in less than 60 days, 2 months before Christmas, everybody's out of a job. So from that transaction or that experience, I learned that managing cash flow, managing accounts receivable, and also knowing the state of your accounts is super important. And especially as a small business or any size business, particularly my lane is small and medium-sized businesses, if you're not tracking how much money is coming in on the back end, you can get caught just like these guys is thinking you have all this money on the books, but the sale is not complete until the money is actually in the bank. And that's how I got here is because of what happened to me personally. So I've created BCS Solutions to do two things. One is to consult with companies, small and medium, to talk about what's going on with your accounts receivable. And secondly, to look at the different silos, because you have the sales silo, the contract silo, the order silo, invoicing, and payments, or collections rather. And I've learned over doing this work that all of those departments don't talk to each other. So sales thinks they're doing fine, AP thinks they're doing fine, but collections, who's at the end of that entire transaction, they're the ones that usually get neglected. And unfortunately, if you're not managing all those buckets or all those buckets correctly, you can think you're doing fine financially, but it's not until the money's actually in the bank that you know really where you stand.
At that moment, a star was born, and I guess that was you. And since then, I guess, based on that experience, you've developed a process that you use at BCS to, it's funny, as you were describing it, in a way, it's almost like a driver in a car. You've got all those gauges and you've got all those indicators, but if you're not paying attention to them and if you don't know what to do about them when they light up, you can end up in a really, really bad position. And your job, as I understand it, is to help companies become more vigilant about this problem that it really is a serious problem if they let it go too long. So how do you do that at BCS? How would you start with a client to solve this problem?
So the first way we start was we have a consultation. So you come in, we have or actually in this case you wouldn't necessarily come in, but we get on a call like this and we talk and we say, hey, first question would be, first of all, how are you doing? Because before I even jump into what's going on with your accounts, I want to know how you're doing. Because I contend that before you have accounts that are 60 days and 90 days past due, I need to know what's going on with you. That's the first thing. So we're going to have a conversation. Secondly, we're going to have basically a quick audit, which basically means you're going to bring together your accounts that are 60 days past due, 90 days past due, and I want to talk to you about what's going on. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you about who's your vendor, what's the contract number, how much was the contract for, how much money was sold, how much is outstanding, and I want to find out what have you done. So I want to find out whether have you fulfilled the terms of the contract. Number one. Number two, did your customer or client, depending on which term you use, come back and say to you that they have an issue or a problem, and have you addressed it? It could be as simple as we've changed our billing systems and you forgot to update your invoices to go into the new system. They said that they ordered 10 widgets, they only received 8 and still owe them 2, and they're not going to pay you in full until you pay them. So I'm looking to gather information because I want to find out what happened, and then we're going to talk about strategies on how to improve this. So of course, the strategies depends on the problem. So is it an administrative problem? So we need to check the invoices. Are you submitting your invoices to the right department with the right information? That could be an issue that needs to be fixed immediately. Did you fulfill your order? Like I said a second ago, you had 10 widgets, you only delivered 8, you're missing 2. You need to fix that. You need to make sure they have all 10 and that they're working. Number 3, what's the temperature of the relationship with your customer? We all have some customers that are just absolutely phenomenal. You're like, yes, I'm working with this customer and piece of cake, no issues. And then we all of us have customers that are a little more challenging, but regardless, they're your customer. And regardless if they're an easy customer or a challenging customer, you still have to treat them with the same respect, and you still need to find out what happened so you can fix the relationship. I contend that you can fix it by fixing the relationship, number 1. Number 2, when they tell you what's going on or what's not working, take a moment and take some notes. Sometimes it's just old school. We have to go back to doing the things we used to do when our parents would tell you, treat everybody with respect, ask the right question, solve the problem, show them that you're more interested in helping them than necessarily helping yourself.
How long does an engagement last with your company, Dee?
So, excuse me?
How long does it take when a company calls you up to work with you? How long does it normally take?
I usually I work 90 days.
10 days?
90.
90, okay.
Wow. So over a period of 3 months, you take what I'm waiting 6 months to collect and get it and teach me how to get that in 30 to 60 days.
Yes.
Well, that's an immediate return on investment. That should be very attractive to any company. How large is your typical client? Are they a small company or a medium-sized company?
They're both, but most of they're both.
Really?
They're both. Yes.
So sometimes you're working with the founder and principal, and sometimes you're working with the administrative staff that handles, let's say, receivables.
Yes. A lot of times lately it's been the admins and receivables, because obviously the CEO of the company or of a company doesn't want to necessarily get into the weeds. She wants to know, how come I'm having cash flow issues? So I have a quick conversation with him or her, but then I need to talk to and build a relationship with the people who are on the front lines, if you will. And the front lines in this case is, who's the person that's processing the invoices? Who's the person that's filling the orders? Who's the person that's dealing with the salesperson? And one of the things I've learned in doing this work is that, how can I put it this way? I'll put it to you this way. I've found out that every department operates independently. So the admin person is super excited about what they do. So is AP, so is sales. One of the things I've learned by working particularly in the IT space and the software companies, I've talked to them and said, hey, have you built a relationship with your salesperson? And they always ask me, why? I said, because he or she has access to the people that you need to connect with to get the money from the company. They're like, well, how do you know this? I said, okay, so I tell the story again about what happened to me working for a small IT firm. The reason I was able to cover that money is because I figured out pretty quickly that although I'm in collections and I'm at the end of the sales contract, order entry, invoicing, payment process, my relationship is necessary to know who the salesperson is, because he or she has the relationship with the vendor that we're trying to collect money from. And sometimes it isn't just as easy as getting on the phone, placing a call, asking about an account, sometimes it's, okay, what happened in the sales order? What happened in the sales order? And I mean, even if you're in business, everybody knows sometimes you get these orders and you're like, okay, I know what it says on paper, but there's a couple of things that are missing here. But if you don't talk to the salesperson, you may be missing a very critical piece of information that will help you collect your money. But if you won't take the time to connect with him or her, you're not going to know that. And so those are what I call the weeds. It's a lot of the little things that most people don't want to contend with. But in order for me to be successful in helping you turn around your cash flow, I need to know what are those relationships, and then what have you done. And I understand that not everybody's going to want to do this, but if you want to stay in business long term and not end up having lots of cash flow issues and having lots of AR issues and having lots of problems, you have to take a look at this. And I also contend that you need to have a vision board, a whiteboard, or a chart showing what's the state of all of your accounts. You ought to know what's in your 0 to 30 bucket, 31 to 60 bucket, 61 to 90 and above. Now, nobody really wants to be in those buckets, but it happens sometimes. You've got some companies that don't pay you immediately. Sometimes it's 30 days out, 60 days out. But you need to notice your account so that you know, and the name of your salesperson if you have a sales team that helps you do this. So you're keeping him or her a part of it, because it's really simple to make sure the salesperson gets their commission because they've sold. And hey, I believe that, not only do you get your commission if that you sell, and that's great, but make sure that the other part of the transaction happened, which is the sale is complete, when the money's in the bank, when the orders are fulfilled, when all the issues that could be there are resolved. Then you go, all right, this is better. And I think it just creates a better atmosphere. That's what I teach when I teach and consult when I talk to companies. I'm always talking about relationships, because I've learned over the years, in order for me to recover the kind of money I've recovered, I've had to learn to build relationships. And building relationships to me is key to being successful, whether it's on the sales end, the contracts end, the order entry end, AP, or in my case, AR.
Interesting.
How is your fees based? How do you bill a company?
So I have a set fee, and then I get a percentage of how much I collect.
Okay, and we're assuming the first call to you, I mean, there are an awful lot of people out there who watch our program that are facing exactly the problem you address. If they were to call you, and you'll be able to give them that information later in the program, if they were to call you, I guess the first conversation could be free until you get to know each other and understand that you're a good fit. Right, so, and a lot of what you're saying, Dee, what you're proving and what you're saying, I think, is that common sense really isn't all that common. And we see that a lot. Sometimes you get so wrapped up in the work that you do or the product that you make that you forget, ultimately you're in this for a profit, you're in this to be able to feed your family, and they neglect a lot of the bread and butter details that I think you make them mindful of. I think that's a great contribution. And I'm also noting that your background is IT. So how often do you help a customer shift from a manual system for billing to, let's say, an electronic system?
We do. I don't actually help them shift. What I do is I help them. What I work on mostly is looking at where are you. I mean, of course, I make a recommendation that if you want to shift from manual to electronic, you do that. But I'm more interested in what's the process that you have right now, because when I say that because of this, some people or some companies I've learned are not always ready to make the shift, because they're like, no, it's the famous line, we've always done it this way. I got it. I'm not here to make you change, not here to force you or push you to change your system in terms of going from manual to electronic. What I am here to focus on is how are you tracking the state of your accounts? That's more important in the system. If you choose to get a new system, that's great. What I'm more focused on is the back office part. It's the what's going on with your accounts. So, for example, again, I'll talk about, one of my first things with every customer is, let's talk about your systems. So I'm old school, I tell. So I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna do an Excel spreadsheet. They're like, well, I want to use an app. Well, you can use an app. I can't talk to you about the app. I can talk to you about Excel spreadsheet, because that's been how I've worked with my customers. So we're gonna set it up. We're gonna set up column 1. What's the name of your customer? Column 2. What's the contract number? Column 3. How much is your contract for? Column 4. What did they buy from you? Column 5. When are you supposed to deliver it? Column 6. When did you bill? Column 7. When's the money coming in? And my favorite spot, column 8. Who's your salesperson? That's my system, and I talk about that openly all the time. That's what I want to see, because if we can capture all that information, then you've got a plan for, okay, this is how many sales we're in for this month of March or April, or in this case, May. This is how much money went out. This is how much money is supposed to come in. We're anticipating this amount of money at this date, and then when the calendar switches and you've missed it, you've got a trigger. Got to get on the phone. I got to call. I got to find out. And if the salesperson is part of that process, he or she, you need to include them in it, because it's all about, to me, it's teams, and I feel like people, regardless of one person or many, you still need to work on becoming a team, and that's how I believe you improve your process. And then, like I said, if you choose to go electronic, do so. That's not my lane, but it's what I just explained.
That's great.
We got to take a break right now.
Yeah, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we have a lot of questions to ask. It's such a great service that you offer. We'll be back after this with more of Dee Bowden and BCS Solutions.
Yeah, stick around.
Thank you.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP Partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP Partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
I want to be a contender. I want a warm belly to sleep on.
A big house.
How do I look? Do I look good?
I want to play hard.
My nails done once a month.
I want.
I want a home. I just want a
Hey, we're back.
Hey, we're back. Welcome
Great.
back to CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini,
I'm Joe Osamendi.
and we have a terrific guest on the line with us via Zoom. Her name is Dee Bowden, and she runs a company called BCS Solutions, which is about cash flow. And Dee, you were saying during the break, most of your clients are really in the IT and software business. So I guess that's kind of a sweet spot for you because your background is pretty much in that area. That's a business that you understand pretty well.
Yes.
Okay, and your job, as we were saying before the break, is to make sure that they don't run out of money, which is something often they're so wrapped up in the software that they develop. These are details they often neglect until it becomes a problem. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Good.
Thank you for that. And the other piece of that is, I understand that for any industry, it just so happens that my experience has been, and my success has been with the IT software industries. But collections is collections. It's always your accounts payable, your accounts receivable. You have a contract. So basically, it goes like this: you have a sale, whether it's a product or a service. You have a contract or an agreement. You have terms and conditions. You have an order or a service that you say. You have to invoice for it and you have to bill for it. Those 5 things happen in every business. You know, the best way I can explain it is basically with a cell phone. If you took your cell phone, you can basically walk through the steps. Number one, whoever your carrier is, regardless of what carrier you have, they sold you a phone. You have an agreement with them. How do I know this? Because you get an invoice from them every single month, and at the bottom of it talks about terms and conditions, whether you bought the phone outright or whether you paid for it on a monthly installment. The order was filled because you walked out of the store with the phone. They invoice you, and then the last part, which is my lane, collections, you pay them. So those things happen regardless. It just so happens that my expertise or my experience has been, you know, in the software, in the IT, and working with government agencies, because that's where it's been. But you can take those same skills around tracking your accounts, knowing your customer, providing excellent customer service, doing the follow-up, preparing invoices correctly. You can do that in any industry. It just so happened, like I said, this has been where I have had the most success, But it's the same principles that go across. Basically, every customer, regardless of what industry you're in, you need to have a system to set up to track how many accounts you have. So, like I said earlier, I like Excel. And Excel doesn't pay me for saying this. It just happens to be that's been the thing I've used the most. But you do need to have a system that tracks what's going on. You should track every customer. You should know that. That's part of building relationships. Number one. Number two, what's the contract number or agreement number? 3, how much is it for? So you know how much money did you come in? How much money did you make in sales for that contract? And then what did they buy from you? 6, when are you supposed to deliver it? 7, when are you billed? When are you invoiced? 8, when's the money coming in? And 9, as I mentioned a few times, what's the name of the salesperson? And I'm saying this based on, I'm sharing this based on the expectation that there is a salesperson, or there might be one in the future, because you might be a one-person show right now, but eventually hopefully you're gonna have a salesperson. And one of the lessons you'll take from this is as you go, here's a way to track your money, and then most importantly, add your salesperson to the end of the system.
Wow.
Is it different working with a family-owned business than a regular organization?
Yes. The family-owned business, number one, is a lot of it is getting to see the importance of tracking information, because a lot of it is, I know John, or I know Sue, we've all, the standard conversation is, hey, they owe me some money, but you know what? They've always paid me. They'll get around to it, okay? But you wanted help to get your money. Yes, I do, but I don't want you to come in and ask them a lot of questions. Okay. So then, how can I help you if I can't ask the questions? Well, I need to get my money, but I don't want to mess up the relationship. And so one of the tightropes that I walk a lot is understanding the long-term relationships that family businesses have with other small companies, and that, we've always done it this way. It's usually just been a handshake, a beer, whatever. We're fine, but they owe me the money. And I'm like, I got that. So I'm trying to help you get your money, but I don't want you to come in and bother them. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then you don't really want me to help you collect your money. I do. So it's this ping pong thing. And so what I normally end up having to do is asking them, okay, which accounts would you like me to work on to get your money back? And they normally tell me, well, can you get me this one? Okay, cool. Well, but wait, what are you going to do? I'm going to do what I do, which I'm going to ask you for some information. I'm going to make a couple of calls. I need to find out what happened. But I don't mess with the relationship. I'm not going to. I promise you I'm not going to, because I understand that I need to respect what you've built with them. I'm in business to help you get your money back. I have to, if I'm going to be successful, I have to allow me to do what I do.
You're really impressing me, Dee. Your clarity of your approach to this, getting to the point, focusing people on what really needs to have attention paid to it, that kind of thing. I got to believe that working with you makes an immediate difference for a company. I can think of a whole bunch of reasons why people would want to reach out to you. I have a question about the times that we're currently living in, and it may not be obvious, but I've got to have a mask on. It's kind of always at the ready under my shirt. Mm-hmm. We're in that COVID quarantine period. How has COVID changed the landscape of the businesses that you're working with these days?
Well, it's changed in a couple ways. Some of them are still doing just fine, and some of them have had some challenges. And so obviously we can't, we're not able to meet in person. So we're doing a lot of these kind of Zoom calls, and we're talking about what's going on. So the same thing I've been saying. I ask them, okay, tell me about the state of your accounts, because I can't provide you guidance until I know what's going on. So we kind of do one of these things. We go, okay, what happened before COVID hit? Oh, I had these accounts that were 60 days past due. First question I'm going to ask you, why didn't you start the calls then? Oh, well, I was going to get around to it. Got it. Okay. Well, now we're in COVID-19 and I'm cash strapped. I got it. But some of the businesses, obviously, it depends on the industry, but some of them are still in business and they're still making money. So you still need to, I tell them, number one, you still need to go through and submit your invoices, call your customer, and number one, find out how they're doing. Number one. Number two, you're still in business, and you need to find out whether they can pay you. And I also ask them to find out if they have, for example, if they tell you that they're short cash, because they haven't gotten paid from their customer. Okay, fine. Make a note. Number 2, ask them, is there any way for them to do a partial payment? Because some money is better than no money. And they're like, are you serious? Yeah, because here's the thing. As a person that works with a business, I don't want to see you go out of business. You have to figure out ways to get some cash flow in. And I tell them, go ask. You're not going to lose anything by asking. At least let them tell you what's going on with their money, and follow it up with an email. Ask them to please put it in an email. Yep, we owe you $10,000. Right now we can pay you $5,000. As soon as our cash flow gets resolved, we'll be able to pay you the rest of it. Okay, cool. You can take that, and at least you have something coming in, and you make notes. I've been talking about it all this whole time. Tracking how you track your accounts. You have another for the columns I just described. You might have one more column that says notes. It talks about what's going on with your payment. So if you expected $10,000, you're only getting $5,000. You know you're still going to get $5,000. It might be another 30 days because I'm not sure where things are with everybody, with every state opening or not opening. But you do need to know what's going on. So I'm saying, reach out to your customer, find out what's going on, ask them if their plans are to pay you and when, and if so, if they tell you, I can't pay you the full amount, okay, what can you do? Because the thing is, we talked about relationships. Well, if you respect the fact that they can't pay you in full, but they can pay you something is better than nothing. A partial payment, you can still work with it, you can still use that income or those funds to take care of your immediate needs, and then go back to, all right, as soon as this is done, we're gonna plan to pay you in full. Follow up. The money is in the follow up. That's what I believe. That's what I do. The money actually is in the follow up.
We only have a few minutes left, but it sounds to me, based on the way you're describing the work you do, that you're kind of a part-time psychologist. A lot of it is rewiring the brains of the business owners to think differently and act differently, and have the courage to pick up the phone and call somebody and ask a question, which I imagine a lot of them are reluctant to do.
They are, and it's funny to me because I'll be honest, I don't really understand why you're reluctant to pick up the phone to call your customer. That's your customer. Because for me, it's like this.
Sure.
You already have the relationship. Because you would not have the contract or the order if you didn't already have the relationship. I mean, that's one. Now, I understand I'm painting a very, very broad stroke approach to this. Of course, there's always those challenges, those customers that you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Generally speaking, you already have a relationship. How do you have a relationship? They're already your customer. You or someone on your team already did the sales presentation. They already said yes to a product or service. They've written a contract with you. You're providing a product or service. There's an exchange that's already happened.
Perfect. Great.
You're already responsible for making sure that you maintain that relationship. Why wouldn't you make sure that you get paid? Yeah. Because aren't you in business to make money? I mean, my understanding is that when people go into business, you go into business to make money. And of course, if you have a philanthropic side, you want to make a difference and a dollar. But number one, you're in business to make money. And then your job is to follow up, especially if you have other people that are relying on you to provide their salary. You know, as I said at the beginning of this interview, I worked for a small IT firm that had $8 million in sales on the books. Less than 100 people lost their jobs 2 months before Christmas. And that impact for me then, as it is today, still bothers me because I went to work for a company thinking that everything was good, that they were managing their cash flow correctly, and they didn't. I'm sure there were other things that impacted it, but I just know from a personal human standpoint, I don't want to see another small business go out of business because they won't ask the question, they won't pick up the phone, they won't do the research, they won't do the things that should be done.
Okay, Dee, we're at that part of our program where you get to tell everybody how to reach you. Based on the conversation we've just had, which was stellar, it's obvious that there are a lot of companies out there that have the exact problem that you solve. So maybe you could just spend a minute, tell everybody how to get a hold of you and how to reach you. So go ahead and do that.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I've actually enjoyed our conversation. It's been a lot of fun, especially on a Friday. It's been excellent. So I'm Dee Bowden. I'm the founder of BCAP Solutions. So reaching me is like this. On social media, I'm Dee Bowden. LinkedIn is Dee Bowden. Website is here. www.collectthecash.biz. That's www.collectthecash.biz. If you are a small business that's listening to this right now and you've got any AR issue, accounts receivable issues, and you're concerned about what do I need to do, go to collectingcash.biz. There's a schedule right there. You can schedule a free 30-minute call with me. We can talk about your accounts and then plan a strategy to help you recover your money. And www.collectthecash.biz.
That's excellent. Dee Bowden, thank you for joining us today on CEO Chat. You were clear, you were articulate, you've got a great solution. People, you should call you before they run out of money. You can help them with that kind of a problem.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us. Thank you for joining us today on CEO Chat. My name is Alcini.
Joe Osmendi.
And we'll be back again with another CEO Chat. So until then, you just stay healthy.
Thanks a lot, Dee.
Thanks, Dee.
Thank you.